Hi, welcome to our podcast, Legalized Negligence, where we discuss Chapter 768.21, subsection 8 of the Florida statutes, which deals with who can and cannot recover damages when malpractice has occurred. Today, we've got a guest. A lot of people already know Sabrina. She's very well known in this realm. Her father died almost 3 years ago, and she's done a lot of news stories, and she specializes in making contact with and cultivating relationships with legislators. She's done a great job at keeping this issue before the Florida legislature, and she's joined us on this team, me and Travis, although Travis isn't with us today. He's working on some other things. But I would like to introduce Sabrina. She's going to talk about a person who reached out to her yesterday through email. This lady wants to attend a delegation meeting, but she didn't know a whole lot about it. So she asked Sabrina some questions about it, and I'm going to just turn it over to Sabrina and let her take it from here. Sabrina?
Hey, Philip, thanks for having me today. I'm happy that I can be on here and discuss this. So, a recent news story did air in the Tampa area, and I was contacted by an individual who has not been personally affected by this Florida statute, but she wants to help. She wants to get involved, and this is a common thing that people want to do, and they don't know where to start. So while I'm honored to have her help, I just hope this video can help make it easier for those with questions that want to get involved and maybe they don't know how. I got this email. Someone wanted to sign up for their local delegation meeting. They wanted to have some talking points. They wanted to know what the delegation meeting is about. And they asked if I could review their speech once they have put it together and give some feedback on how it was put together. And they also asked questions about, does the request need to be approved after they are signed up, and if they get a spot, then is it a specific time or wherever they can be fit in. And they also expressed some concerns of feeling nervous, which is 100% normal, because I too, no matter how many I've done, I still feel nervous. So today I would like Philip and I to talk to you all about delegation meetings in general and hopefully answer some of those questions.
Before you
So what
before you get started on that, Sabrina, it just hit me. It's important to understand why we need to it's important to understand that what we say at a delegation meeting is extremely important. It's certainly important to tell our stories, tell about how our loved one died, what happened, why we think it's medical malpractice. That's great. And to get those stories in the news is certainly important. But if you're going to attend a delegation meeting, what is it that you're going to say to your legislator? That's what's going to matter. If you're just going to tell them the story, they've already heard hundreds and hundreds of these stories. They know that it's an issue, but our focus is on bringing them solutions that they haven't looked at before. They've tried one solution over the last 33 years, and that is to carve out a certain class of people who can't file med mal claims. And we're looking at bringing them new solutions. Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted people to understand why it's important to, when you speak to your legislator at these meetings, why it's important what you bring to them. So go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is true. It's very important. A lot of legislators who are not new to the House or Senate are already very aware of this issue, and they have already formed an opinion in their minds of this issue. So if we can shed new light on new talking points to them, maybe they will hear us differently and take this issue a little bit more seriously. And our goal here all is the same, to get this law changed. So in In short, a delegation meeting is a meeting that takes place in a county, every single county throughout Florida at different days and times, where your local legislators will be, and they want to hear from their constituents. If you don't live in that county, you can still attend your surrounding counties. And basically, it is your opportunity to get in front of your House reps and senators and let them know your thoughts, what you care about, what's important to you, what you feel should be done. Typically, you have 3 minutes to speak. That sounds short, but if you are well prepared, you can actually say a lot in 3 minutes. I personally, and this won't apply to everyone, I personally spend a minute on my dad's story, a minute on what this law is, who it carves out, and a minute on what I'm asking for. Um, for people that are not personally affected by this, they will spend their 3 minutes much differently because they may not have a story to tell. So everybody's speech will be very different, but the same goal is to let them know that we need help and we're asking for their help. And when you get up there, there's usually a clock that's counting down. If you have 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, don't pay attention to it. Just speak and you'll do fine. My best advice is to go in with confidence. You are allowed to prepare handouts to the legislators before you go. So if you feel like you've timed yourself and you can't fit it all in, prepare a handout and find out how many legislators will be there, and or just make several copies and bring them, and usually whoever's running the delegation meeting will be kind enough to put it in their binder, and you can always say refer to my handout. That takes a lot of stress off of talking when they can refer to your handout. Two things I recommend when it comes to making a handout: make it a color, bright neon pink, green, yellow. It'll stand out. You can say refer to that one, then they'll know what you're talking about. And add pictures. If you have a personal story, if you are someone who has been affected, add a photo of your loved one. That also kind of personalizes it. When you sign up for a delegation meeting, they will email you and confirm that you are signed up. We, as the people, have no control over when we are called up. We are placed on an agenda. And these delegations usually run anywhere from 3 to 6 hours. Orange County, I believe, was 8 hours last session. We don't know where we will be in the lineup. Sometimes they will email you their final agenda the day before. Sometimes they will not. I attended one on September 13th. They did not tell me where I was. So typically they say a prayer, they say the Pledge of Allegiance, they introduce all the legislators, and then they call up the sheriff's office, the police, the school boards, the mayor, and then they get to the public speaking, and usually you'll be somewhere on the list in that area. Another point I think is important to make is that before you go to your delegation meeting, find out who you'll be talking to. Because every delegation meeting is a different group of people, and they may have voted on this very issue before. So you may find yourself up there thanking them and just simply saying, please support it when it comes around again.
Let me
Some
let me put a bookmark there for a second, Sabrina, because a couple of questions are popping into my head. How do people find out where the delegation meetings are going to be, and how do they find out who is going to be there? I've noticed that on the delegation meetings that you've attended, you've called the legislators by name as you're getting ready to walk away. You thank this one and thank that one, and you know who they are. So how do people find that information?
Sure, I will tell you that now. So I use this very helpful website. And I will tell you the website. It is 1000fof.org. So 1000 FOF.org. I believe that stands for 1000friendsoflorida.org. This website tells you every single delegation meeting with the date and time, and it also provides who you need to email to sign up to speak. It is important that you remember to sign up and speak. If you show up the day of, you may or may not get the opportunity. You'll probably be added on last if they have time. But usually it's best to go ahead and sign up in advance. And sometimes it's not listed what legislators will be at that particular delegation. Like, for instance, I'll bring up on the 1000fof.org website, I'm at Polk County Legislative Delegation Meeting. It states the date and time, where it's at, and who to email to sign up to be added to the agenda. It does not state who will be there. So that's when I personally would look up Polk County Legislative Delegation Meeting members, and you can usually find who are the legislators in that county, what senators and what House reps will be there, and find out who you'll be speaking to. If that doesn't work, then the email that you send a request to be added to the agenda, you're welcome to ask them, who will I be speaking in front of on, like, Polk County is October 2nd. So that is two ways you can find out who you will be getting in front of. And if anyone has questions on a certain legislator, how they have voted in the past, remember, no senators have voted on this because it has not been heard in the Senate. And House reps have. So if you find yourself wanting to know, has this House rep voted yes or no, feel free to reach out. There's a list online of the vote history for the bill in 2022.
I don't know if you can see it, Sabrina, but I'm sharing the screen for that website that you're talking about so people can get the web address, 1000fof.org.
Yes, it's under upcoming events. Should be a tab for upcoming events, and that's where all the meetings are listed.
I'm looking for upcoming events. I'm not seeing an upcoming events, but people can go to this page and scroll around and they can find it.
Yes, it is on that. If what I Google is Florida delegation meeting list, and it'll come up upcoming events for that page, and it takes me right to it.
Okay, cool. All right, and back to your thing about making handouts. Travis and I have spent the last almost a year working on arguments against the current narrative that we have to, the legislature believing that the only way to solve the insurance problem in Florida is to limit the number of people who are able to file medical malpractice claims. And we've put together a document that we have sent to several representatives, and I can't remember if any senators got it yet or not, but it contains, there's a lot of legal language in there that the average person probably wouldn't understand. There's some court cases that are cited, but there's some very strong talking points in there as well. And we're currently working on narrowing that down so where the layman can use that for talking points, and we'll provide it at some point. You'll be able to write to us at either Philip at legalizednegligence.com or Travis at legalizednegligence.com or Sabrina at legalizednegligence.com and get a copy of these talking points that we're putting together. And I hope to have that finalized within about a week. If I remember right, doesn't the Florida legislature go into session the first week of January?
It begins on January 9th.
Well, on the 9th. So we have roughly 3.5 months, almost 3.5 months. And the three of us, Sabrina, myself, and Travis, are all willing. If anybody wants to reach out, to us an email or join our Facebook group. Here, let me pop that up on the screen so you can know how to find our Facebook group. There it is. It'll show up in just a minute. Let me know when it's there, Sabrina.
I see it.
Okay. You just go to Facebook at Legalized Negligence, the state of Florida versus the people. And we post our videos there. We post some of the legal arguments that we've been making there. You can comment. I'm thinking about asking people to write and suggest questions that they would like for us to answer in these podcasts, and maybe even, well, in fact, if you have just a minute, Sabrina, here is a video of Travis speaking at the one of the delegation meetings. You have a minute for me to play this?
Absolutely. That was Hillsborough County, and
Yeah,
let's watch.
this will give people a good idea of how a delegation meeting goes, and how to be prepared for what you're going to speak about. Let me know if you're seeing that playing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Speaking on Florida's wrongful death act, the academic task force preliminary fact-finding report stated that approximately 4% of physicians were responsible for 42.2% of the total claims paid out. If you were a business, would you employ 4 people for every 100 if they cost you 42.4% of your profits? The legislature said yes, and instead chose to steal away rights from the people, fully knowing well that those 4 and 100 will continue to do significant harm to the people. In 2000, in the case of Mizrahi versus North Miami Medical Center, Justice Barbara Pariente stated in her dissent that even if the crisis existed in 1990, there is no reason to believe that it still continues today. In 2014, in the case of a state of McCall versus United States, it was ruled that caps on damages are arbitrary and unconstitutional. I say that Florida Statute 768.21, subsection 8, is 100% cap. In 2017, in the Florida Supreme Court case of North Broward Hospital District versus Calapan, the court questioned whether the medical crisis still exists and if it ever existed at all. If the crisis still exists today after over 30 decades time, then Florida Statute 768.21, subsection 8, does not serve its purpose and needs to be repealed. If the crisis is over, Florida Statute 768.21, subsection 8, does not need to exist and needs to be repealed. Thank you.
Now, that was certainly much deeper than the average person would do. But keep in mind, Travis and I have been working on these arguments for a year, and we've rehearsed them and we know them very well. But somebody who does not know all of the language of that could certainly take talking points out of that. The statute was put into place 33 years ago, and its intention was to bring down the cost of medical malpractice insurance. In 33 years, it hasn't done that. So, I mean, it's very simple to narrow that down to something that the average person could say without having had spent the last year of his life studying the issue. So,
Yeah, and I would like to point out from that video is Travis had 1.5 minutes. That is rare. Usually you do have a little bit longer, so you don't have to speak that fast. Usually you can talk a little slower and say everything you need to say in a little bit more time. He did a fantastic job with squishing that all into 1.5 minutes.
He really did.
Yes.
He really did. Is there anything else that you can think of that somebody might want to know about a delegation meeting?
I'm going to a few, so if people are going, I'm happy to connect. We can sit together, we can talk about it before it starts. Reach out, feel free to email me at sabrina@legalizednegligence.com. Let me know if you're going. And there's a lot of them coming up. Like I said, you can do your own county, you can do surrounding counties. If you have people who want to go with you, family members or friends, and they want to speak, that's another 3 minutes for this topic that we can make some more points on. So feel free to bring someone, even if it's just for support, to sit with you and be there. But I think I would like to say it's something that comes with time, but honestly, these things do not here. You know, if public speaking is hard in general, so I think that's all just normal and part of the process. And I would really emphasize on knowing who you're talking to before you go, if you can, to try to get an idea of how you'll connect with them. But I don't think anyone can go wrong by speaking at these things, and we are all here, Travis, myself, and Philip, to help you all understand and get through this process, because it's very important, and I'm happy there's people that want to do it, and we're here to help.
It's so important, Sabrina, that when they wrote the Florida Constitution, they thought to enshrine that in the People's Declaration of Rights. Article 1, Section 5 states that it is our duty to instruct our representatives. And this is the way that we interact with the government that we elect to govern us. You know, the Constitution is a document that governs those who govern us. And within that document, and in Florida, it's Article 1 of the Florida Constitution, that tells the rights that we withheld, that we did not give to the government when it was created. And we withheld the right from the government, and we kept it to ourselves, that we have the right to instruct our representatives when we think something needs to be addressed. And kind of on that same subject, we also withheld the right to a trial by jury and to have access to the courts, but kind of in a roundabout way, they've taken that away from us. And that's what we're trying to have them redress. We want that fixed. They have perverted the Constitution for the last 33 years, and we're standing up saying, no more. We're not going to put up with it. We want this law changed.
I agree. Can I share two really powerful things that have came of my delegation meetings in my journey?
Sure.
So I'll just briefly share. The first one I ever did was here in Alachua County. I gave the office a call on a Friday, and she said it's on Monday. I said, how can I sign up? And she said, it's too late. You just have to show up, and you might get added on at the end. So I showed up, and I sat through everybody else's speech, and I was the very last person to be called up. Like, it was a long day. So when I went up there, I spent 3 minutes crying, telling them about my dad and what happened and the findings, and how they failed him, and all about this law that they were already very well aware of. I just felt it necessary to say it all over again. I didn't know I could bring a handout. It was unorganized, to say the least, for me, but that was okay. And at the end of my time up there was a representative, and she said, Miss Davis, what are you asking us for? I was like, at that moment, I didn't know they could ask you questions. So I had to gather my thoughts and stop crying and figure out, what am I asking for? And that's when I realized I'm asking you to bring a bill in the House to end this law. And the very next day I heard from her. She filed the bill and told me she would let me know when she had a bill number. And at that moment, I felt like I was heard. It had to be the first time I felt that my voice was heard. And it all started with not knowing a single thing about what I was doing. And to me, that has only made me feel more confident to continue. A second thing that's pretty powerful that has happened is Representative McLean, I'll name him. He's voted no on this bill before, and I looked up his information, and I realized between him and his wife, they have 11 children. So I approached him at a delegation meeting just before the 2022 session started, and I said, Rep. McLean, why? Why would you vote no? You have 11 children between you and your wife. What if they're 25 single with no kids and they fall into this category? And he said, I voted no. I said, you did. And he was like, he acted like he didn't realize it. So for what it was worth, I went ahead and I said my speech. 2022 session, it was heard. He changed his vote to a yes. I spoke in front of him last week, September 13th in Marion County. He remembers me. I thanked him. I said, thank you for changing your vote to a yes. You know what he told me? He's about to be a senator. His days of a House rep are about to be done, and he's about to move up to be a senator. So establishing this connection with someone, I have no idea who he was. I just knew he voted no. And I knew I wanted to change his mind and explain to him how important this is. I'm honored to say that he changed his vote and that now he's going on to be a senator. And I feel confident we'll have his vote in the Senate. But it all started with just talking. These people are normal people like you and I. So I hope those two things is a bit of encouragement for the people who are feeling nervous. Don't be, you don't ever know where you can make an impact, and you just might be the person they need to hear from.
It's my belief that the American people have been bamboozled by our government and by the news media, making us think that the way that you protest against something government has done is paint up a bunch of signs and go march up and down the street and scream in bullhorns and all of that. And that gets people's attention, but generally from their office window as they look down at all the people in the street. But you, one girl in Florida, was able to grab this representative's attention and you made a difference. That's how our system is supposed to work. That's why in every constitution, whether it's one in the 50 states or the US Constitution, it always says to peaceably assemble. We don't need to be walking up and down the halls of the legislature, yelling and screaming and calling people names. We need to peaceably approach these people, tell them why we're there, give them a counter argument for against what they understand the issue to be, and present the other side of the argument. It's just like anytime you go into court, you got one attorney saying one thing, one attorney saying something else, and the judge is supposed to be a neutral party who listens to it. And then he says, I think you've persuaded me. And one side wins and one side loses. That's how our system works. I think you've done a wonderful job over the last 3 years. And I know that your dad is very proud of you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So everybody, I thank you, Sabrina, for being on with me today. Everybody, please, the whole spiel, like, subscribe, ring the bell, all the things that you're supposed to do. Join us on our Facebook group and write to us, either Sabrina or Philip or Travis at legalizednegligence.com. And we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. Sabrina, hang on. I'm going to stop the recording and then you'll all talk a minute.